What up, y'all? It's your hometown hero, the real Adam Coleman. Y'all know what it is. And we got a full complement of Urban Apologetics Avengers in the building, man. This is not a game right now. This might be the most people have had on the channel at any one time. I feel like that might be right. I feel like that might be right. So this is like a first timer right here. So I don't know if the live stream is going to crash or I don't know what's going to happen right now. You know, we're like pushing the limits. You know what I'm saying? Definitely pushing the limits. But hey, y'all, how y'all feeling out there? If you're feeling good in the chat, give me a 1. Or matter of fact, better yet, actually, Ben Handelman, he's got the fire symbols in there. So let's if you're feeling good, give me a fire symbol, fire emoji. All right, DNew obviously doesn't count because you're on the live stream. So, well, I guess technically you're I guess you are in the chat also. So
woman's vote doesn't count. I see how it is.
Oh, here we go.
I am a mod, and I will time out if necessary.
Wow. Start a suffrage movement.
I feel like that might be a conflict of interest. Like, how can you be a mod and in the and on the channel at the same time? Like, so if anybody disagrees with you, you could just mod them out. Like, you know.
I mean, I feel like I just got it like that. So
wow.
All right.
Wow.
All right.
Hey, she understands with great
absolute power corrupts absolutely.
Pretty much. Responsibility.
Unlimited power.
Right. Well, hey man, if y'all can give me a couple likes out there, that'd be great. If you can give me some shares out there, that'd be great. We are live. Actually, I'm gonna do the same. I'm gonna be super unprofessional. I'm gonna share this right now if I could. But while I do that, how y'all feeling, man? Let's get some introductions here for those who may be unfamiliar with folks on the channel. DNew, let's start with you. How you doing?
I am good. This is my second time being on your platform in 2 weeks. So I feel like, this is just going to be a good show today. We're vibing with history making here. So
yeah, we on a roll, man. We on a roll. That's what's up. Glad to have you back. It's like so soon. That might be a record right there too. Actually, we got the most people maybe ever on at one time. And I think as far as back-to-back appearances by any one guest, this might be a first for somebody to come back back like week after week. I don't know.
Awesome.
I thought it was Vocab before, but man, I think she might have got you, Vocab. I don't know, bro.
Got you, Vocab.
But she can never take the fact that I think I was your first interview.
Well, technically,
or first one that aired, or something like that.
Yeah, and you know what? Yes, you were the first interview. That is true. You were the second one that aired, but technically, you were the first person that I interviewed. That is true.
I can't.
Right.
Don't take that from me, bro.
I scoured the internet for people that I felt just weren't really doing anything with their life, and then I invited them on the show. So you were the first one.
I'll be sure to tell Greg Kokel that next time I see him. Since he was the first guy you aired.
Nice.
It's true. Yes, true. Actually, no, it's Chris Broussard's, man. That's even worse. Man, what's good with you, Vocab? How you doing, man? What's happening with you, bro?
Man, it's been an interesting time watching this story unfold, and so I've been right along with everybody else watching it unfold. And it's crazy. It's already resurrection time. Today is what some people call Monday, Thursday. Then we got Good Friday. Boom. I mean, here we are already. So I'm just watching the time go by, trying to do something, and thinking about my book and thinking about DNew, BK's, and Adam's next book.
There we go. Absolutely, man. Yeah, we just dropped the book, right? The Street Level Apologetics.
Oh yeah.
Boom. Just dropped that, and cool. And we got the BK Apologist himself. I believe we can't actually see his video, but I believe by faith
it is
real deal.
Straight out of the County of Kings, Brooklyn. I'm a little under the weather, that's why they came up, but I definitely want to be part of the conversation. So I am here fighting the germs of this cold. And yeah, I'm here.
Cool.
You don't sound sick.
I'm
just kidding. You sound like you need some chicken noodle soup with a soda on the side.
Wow. Okay.
Well, he's vegan, so that may not work out.
Yeah, that's not gonna work at all.
All right, we'll give you some of that imitation chicken in there.
There you go.
Tofu.
Yeah.
Well, hey man, is okay. Baba Jean Tibbs said that he ordered the book, y'all. So shout out to him. Appreciate you, my brother, for the support. Shout out to Ben Handelman with the super chat. Definitely appreciate it. Y'all know I'm in a pretty jovial mood, man. I try to keep things pretty light here on the channel, but I mean, we actually are about to dig into some pretty serious stuff. I mean, obviously, there's been a really sad, tragic occurrence, over the last couple of days. We had there was just a mass shooting again, what I'm saying, in Brooklyn, New York, where I believe, I mean, maybe the numbers have changed, but last time I checked, I think at least 10 people were shot. I don't think there's been any deaths, but I think there were like 29 injured total, and they're somewhere around there. So it's been pretty wild, man. And so we're going to get into that in a bit, because we do have some video, from not the incident, not trying to re-traumatize people, but as we'll talk about in a little bit, this individual, Frank James, the name of the shooter. Apparently he's been talking this kind of way for quite a while. So we're going to kind of get into his ideology and some things that he was on, and see some startling connections with the conscious community. But before we get into all that, I want to go to BK, man. For those who don't know, I mean, I feel like you probably should, but BK stands for Brooklyn. He's the Brooklyn Apologist.
Right.
And so you being in the heart of, this situation, man, I kind of want to go to you and just kind of, get, where you're at, man. How are you doing with things?
I mean, it's crazy because, I mean, it literally hit close to home, because those are the trains that I take to go to work.
Wow.
And that particular train stop, 36th Street, is where I would transfer for the D train to get to work.
Oh,
And
wow.
so I mean, now luckily for me, I always get to my job earlier than, like dumb earlier. I go to work at 8. I'm at the office by like 7:10. I like to ease into my, get my bagel, my coffee,
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, then my wife, she's usually in that area around 8:30, which is the time of the shooting. So I was very concerned.
Oh, wow.
I called, and she wasn't calling me back. So so I'm already like thinking the worst. I was able to call the operator of a job, thinking that I'm gonna have to run through a bunch of hoops to see which department. But the operator knew my wife. She's like, "Hey, so what's your wife's name?" Like, Sajid. "Oh, that's the homie. She right here." I'm like, "Oh, okay, great."
Wow.
So everybody's safe and sound, and we both really commit ourselves to just getting to work early, not on time, but early, because we really try to represent Christ in everything we do, and I feel like God blessed that, because it could have been very easily us during that time, But yeah, it's crazy. It's crazy.
Well, yeah, man, I'm thankful that both you and your wife were okay, man, and weren't in the vicinity when everything went down, man. I didn't even know about it. Actually, I signed it. I've been doing telework for the last couple of years. I signed it to my job, and I just hadn't even looked at the news or anything like that. And I got a text from MJ, man, and MJ was like, "Yo, man, like, check on your boy, check on Alfredo. Like, is he all right?" I'm like, "Oh, what you talking about?"
Mm-hmm.
And he was like, "Man, there was like an explosion or something like that." Everything was all hectic when when it first popped off. So they were saying it was an explosion, or there were just bombs there, but it was a shooting and so forth. So that's when I had hit you up, man, and
Right.
eventually got with you. So it was definitely good to hear your voice, man. But I'm sorry.
Also
Yeah.
pray for my city, because there was 10 shootings that happened that same day in New York outside of the subway shooting.
Wow.
Man.
Wow.
So my city is on fire right now. So definitely pray for New York, y'all. So
Yeah, definitely would do that. Okay. Well, I'm thankful that you guys are okay, and we'll definitely keep that in mind. As moving forward, definitely be praying for you in New York. With that being said, man, I do want to get into the main topic here. Like I said, this gentleman, Frank James, the Brooklyn subway shooter. He had some very wild ideas that I think many of us who deal with urban apologetics all the time are all too familiar with. We're going to take a look at a video that he put out. Apparently, he had a YouTube channel. He had a Facebook page. He was a, I guess, an influencer, if you will. I mean, like, he was really out there trying to build a platform for himself, or at least kind of be heard to some extent. And obviously, once something like this happens, I don't know if it's I don't know who does it, but I guess it's YouTube or the feds or whoever, shuts these channels down. But we were able to get at least one video before the Facebook channel was shut down. So we're going to be playing clips of it. and just kind of breaking some things down. But before we get into that, DNew, Vocab, do you have anything just kind of on your mind, on your heart that you want to just get into before we play this first clip?
Yeah, just piggybacking off of what you just said, I was able to listen to a few of his videos, and the stuff that he was saying was just so reminiscent of what we hear all the time in comment threads and in Facebook groups. And I think that the moral of the story that we're trying for people to see is that ideas have consequences, and so I think that it's important to discuss these things, and I hope that we can get truth across to whoever's watching this tonight. So.
When this first happened, I had a bunch of people send me things to say, "Oh, Hebrew Israelite," that kind of thing, right? And I said, "Oh, hold up," and then I had another friend who got some real quick sources close to the story and sent them to me. And that was helpful because I was able to find his social media right away. And then I think I sent that out to the rest of y'all. And we all kind of went through it together. And it became clear pretty quick. This is not a Hebrew Israelite guy. He's not even positively influenced by Hebrew Israelism. That was what a lot of people were saying. And then it became pretty clear. Well, look who he subscribes to. Look who he's quoting. Look what videos he's sharing. This is a conscious community guy. And it became clear real quick, just looking through it. And we had this brief conversation. Get whatever you can. This is going to disappear soon. And the YouTube channel went first, and then it took a second for people to catch on to the Facebook channel because a lot of people got that when Rolling Stone came out with a little article, and that included a link to the Facebook, which was still active. And so then you had the Facebook, and so stuff, disappears. It always does. The way the news reports it is they say YouTube took the channel down, Facebook took the channel down. That's the way the news reports it. So I don't think it's a situation where federal agencies sort of are allowed or can do that. I don't know, though, if they maintain some like unlisted version for federal law, because now these days a big element of investigation is they comb through someone's social media. So I can't imagine that they're like, say the cops haven't found it yet. They're like, it's just gone. Sorry. Seems like there's probably some kind of backup that they allow. But I don't know that for sure. But I know that it's always reported that the social media company themselves do it. But it's a little irritating because then no one can study it. I'm like, look, they're already locked up. It's not like come on. It's like the thing happened. This would be helpful for us to be able to look at it. So if you're out there, listen, and one of these things happened and you think we should look into it from an apologetic standpoint, download, copy anything immediately relevant. If you don't, it will literally, and I've had this happen, so I'm going to stick with this phrase, it will disappear in your hand as you hold the phone. And so shout out to Nate because he helped us download a bunch of the stuff. And then shout out to Adam because he got the main video we're going to be looking at today. But this is kind of a lesson because these things probably will happen again. And when they relate to apologetics, we got to not jump to conclusions. Don't say it must be this, it must be that, and all that. Look who's calling me. Hey, I'll play the video. I'm gonna pick it up real quick to see what I just want to see if I'll be back. I'm gonna ask him.
No, it's cool. Well, yeah. So like Vocab said, and maybe I need to say this, maybe I don't, but just for clarity, say I'm gonna play some clips of the video. I do not endorse any of the ideas or anything that he communicates in these videos. The purpose of this video is not to support, endorse, further his ideas or anything of that nature. This is more of like kind of like a Freedom of Information Act type of situation where we're simply looking to critique these ideas for religious educational purposes. I'm saying we believe that ideas have consequences, as DNew stated earlier, and we want to break some of these ideas down for that reason. So with that, I'm just going to go ahead and I'm going to play the first clip. And I think this first clip will kind of give people, again, it'll be real reminiscent of stuff that you've heard before. So just take a listen. And man, I really wish that I could that Vocab had muted himself, but I guess he's just.
We should also give a language warning as well.
Thank you. Yeah, actually, I didn't even think about that. That's absolutely right. There is. I normally try to not play. negative language on the show. I mean, even mild stuff I try to stay away from. But this one, just everything just happens so quick. So I mean, there is some language in here.
It's in all of his stuff too. Like you can't, if you mute it out, you're gonna mute out everything that he's saying.
Right. That's just kind of the nature of what he was coming across with. Yeah. So all right. Okay, cool. So let me go ahead and start the video, y'all.
As I look at this image, I can't help to think this is one of the earliest images that I've ever remember seeing, or painting that I remember seeing, or whatever you want to call it. Because for a time when I was real young, like when I was like 5 or 6, right after my mother died when I was 5. And so myself and my sisters, we went to stay with one of my aunts out in Queens, Hollis, Queens, as a matter of fact. And I stayed out there for quite a while. I forgot, maybe over a year, so I forgot how long. I even went to school out there for a time. But I would see this image every time I would go upstairs to my room, because it was right in the window. My aunt's husband was a devout Catholic. He was a black Portuguese, I guess you call him that. Really, really nice guy, really cool guy. I don't have nothing bad to say about him. And he never, always was kind toward me as a child. But yeah, just remembering this image and remembering him, every time he passed by a church, he would cross himself, because he was a devout Catholic. He was a black Catholic, Portuguese, from, I think he was from somewhere in Massachusetts somewhere, his family was. And yeah, so as I'm doing this video, I'm thinking about this. I picked this image in particular because yeah, that was one of my earliest rememberings, is seeing that image. That he had a big picture of it in this, like in the window, there's like a side window, that type thing. But anyway, with that being said, let's get into this video. And the title of this video, Did God Curse Black People? And this is important that we talk about this, because it's important, because we're supposed to be a very important part of who we are as human beings, is our spiritual beliefs, wherever they may come from. And as I told you, and some of you may remember me saying this to you, I talked about the Bible in the past. I talked about the fact that the Bible, to me, and it can be proven, has been pasteurized, homogenized, and turned into a tool of conquest and domination of non-white peoples. This is what the result of this book has been. And we can see it. We open our eyes. It's very easy to see. Who are the richest people on the planet? Who has the most wealth, owns the most land? They're white, and a lot of them are Jews. Just on a side note. And it's all based on the fact that they found a way, and they found a formula that worked, of capturing people, not just physically, mentally, and psychologically, but also spiritually, taking us over spiritually and being able to indoctrinate us with a belief system that is totally alien to us, and one that actually tells us that we're cursed, that our blackness is a curse. Yes, it does. It says that. I'm going to prove that in this video. Actually,
I'm gonna just pause it there for that clip. I played that because that was actually the very first 3 minutes of the video that I downloaded, and I think that it kind of sets up where he goes in the rest of the video. But you can clearly see like what tip he's on. Now somebody, I think Nate 2D2 and Michelle Turner pointed out in the chat that in this video he's pretty calm compared to many of his others. I mean, he's not ramped up in this one. I just happened to pick this one as Vocab put me on to the Facebook. This is the one that I came across. Actually, I selected it because it had the thumbnail of the white Jesus. I'm like, okay, that might be related to what we do. So I downloaded that one, and kind of fortunate it did, because I think it gives us something to talk about rather than just kind of cussing randomly. But as he's kind of setting up, where he's going in the rest of the video, like, what are your initial thoughts when you guys heard this?
Well, when I first heard it, I thought, man, Adam, you definitely picked the right one, as far as a video to get into, because a lot of the other ones are pretty wild rants and stuff like that. Like, they can't guard the subway, they can't protect the subway.
Yeah, you really said that, yeah.
And so this one, I was like, because I hadn't heard this one in particular, and then you linked it in. I was sitting there, man, this guy could have been sitting there, being interviewed by the man who just called me on the telephone.
Right.
He could have been on the couch with that man.
Yeah, it's true. Yeah.
By the way, I asked him, I was like, hey, this guy? Or ever heard of him? And the man I was on the telephone with said no. It was a surprise to him when he heard about it, but some people told him. But yeah, that's what I thought. I was like, man, this guy could. And it's interesting, you hear pain, you hear sadness, you hear certain things of how it relates to formative childhood memories. All that is, it's actually, it's very interesting, and all ends up being tragic. Now, I think it's a bit much to be like European Jesus made this dude shoot people in the subway, but
right.
But it may have been a factor in him rejecting Christianity. I mean, he's clearly on that tip, and so I think we need to take that in consideration, and that's sad, man. So hearing it, just kind of hearing it, and also he sounds a lot more New York than I thought, because they said he has ties to this place and that place. When I heard him, I was like
Milwaukee and something else.
Yeah, Philly, I was like, man,
yeah,
BK probably knows this guy, even though he's from Queens. I'm just messing.
Yeah, but, he definitely sounds like a native New Yorker. Yeah. Absolutely.
But yeah, you got the right clip, man.
No doubt. BK, what you got?
Actually, I think DNew kind of alluded to this earlier. It's like we've heard this guy before, in various Facebook rooms and chats. We've heard these talking points again and again and again. And what we're now seeing is how these talking points can begin to set somebody on a trajectory of very morbid proportions, and Adam, and you always say this all the time. It's like, if people wonder why there's a need for apologetics, well, here's the reason, right? Because it starts this way.
Yeah,
and he's calm in the video, I believe, because he started with a good memory. Like, this guy was nice to me, even though he believed in white Jesus, he was nice to me. But he slowly goes from there into these issues that he has with the Bible, which, if he ran into somebody that knows their Bible and knows how to articulate the gospel, could have helped him with these talking points that he has. That's why it's so important for us to be equipped, to help people like this, because who knows, a good conversation, really getting somebody grounded in the actual Bible might prevent the next shooter. And that might sound hyperbolic, but you never know. So
I think the clip also reminds us of, how powerful imagery is. Like, this is a grown man who, has lived years and has accumulated memories over his life, but he remembers specifically this memory of being a young boy and his uncle, making the sign of the cross and the image of the white Jesus. These images, for some people, are just so damaging to their view of Christ and their view of Christianity. And like he was just saying, this is why, urban apologetics is so important, for us to clarify what is right and what isn't right, what needs to be corrected, what needs to be, pulled out, like all of the weeds pulled out. And, it's just important that we address these things. This man literally is denigrating Christianity because of the picture of Christianity that he has in his head.
No, that's a great point. That's a great point. And I hadn't even thought about that, but I mean, to be that old, actually, I don't even know how old he is, but obviously he's been around for a while, and to go back to that earliest memory, of this picture of so-called white Jesus. I mean, that is pretty profound, when you think about it. You gonna say something about that, Vocab?
I think he's 62 was the age I heard. Okay. He was 62 is what I heard.
Yeah.
Right. Okay.
I think he had been on disability for a number of years. I think you got a couple $1,000 a month.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. That's right. I did hear that. I was gonna say, like, what if he had come across a book like this? What if he had come across? There we go. Shout out to Jerome Gay. The whitewashing of Christianity. Like, what if he had come across these resources that we have coming out through the urban apologist community. Again, shout out to Pastor Jerome Gay, calling some of this stuff out. You know what I mean? Like these aren't just stuff that we just we just put out for the fun of it. Like you said, ideas have consequences, and I think that anytime that you can kind of chop away at untruth in somebody's kind of like web of beliefs, if you will, then you're doing a service to that person, and you're guiding them closer and closer to Christ.
Right.
So, so I'm gonna play the next clip, and we'll see what he's getting into.
It needs to be dealt with, needs to be talked about, needs to be debated amongst Black people, in terms of where our spiritual belief system, where our spiritual life is at in this world today, and why it is where it's at. It doesn't matter if you're a Christian or a Muslim and you're Black. We have to think about this. And I think that his video helps us in doing that, because he opens up a train of thought that very few people I've seen very few people on YouTube open up. And it's one that all Christians, Black Christians, even though it's not going to do any good, because once you become indoctrinated, once you become saved, once you become brainwashed, for lack of a better term, once you brainwash yourself, there's nothing that's going to change your or shake your faith, and you're locked. They got you, and they do have you like that. This is a problem that has been plaguing us for a very long time. It's something that's ingrained in us. It's something that's a part of us now. This belief in these books that were forced on us as our time of being slaves. I guarantee you the majority of Africans from West Africa were not Christians, did not believe in Islam, unless if they believe in Islam, so Islam was brought much earlier, maybe 1,000 years earlier, before the Europeans showed up and started enslaving us. They were enslaving us 1,000 years before the Europeans. So of course Islam was going to be in Africa for that reason. Everything that was brought to us, these religions were brought to us by the edge of the sword. They weren't brought to us. We didn't go and just accept these things. We didn't ask them. They were forced on us. That's what you tell yourself as people burn like brass. And so what if it was? He's not even real. Here's the thing. There's no such person. He's only a fictional character. But anyway, and even whether you believe in this book or not, this is impacting you. This is going to impact your children. Because you have millions upon millions of people who believe this with all their hearts. They're around you. They're all around you. So whether you believe it or not, doesn't matter. It's going to impact your life and the life of your children. When this motherfucker breaks down, and it will break down. See, I can't do shit else but break down. What else is going to do but break down? And so we have to keep this in mind.
Yeah, so he's kind of getting a little deeper. I should have clarified before too. Like in the original video, he's kind of weaving in and out, of various different topics. And so what I try to do with these first couple of clips, or actually, well, with this clip anyway, is the parts where he was on topic, if you will. I put them together to kind of you can get a sketch of his thoughts on it. But there you have it. Some comments about Christianity being a bondage in West Africa, so on and so forth. DNew, I'm gonna come back to you. Like, what are your thoughts on that? Where you at?
I always find it interesting. Again, you hear these things all the time, but I always find it interesting that people say that brainwashing is why you can't shake Christians and that you can't sway them, as opposed to no, it's because we are confident in our worldview. We're confident in the evidence that we have. It's just always very interesting that it has to be that we're brainwashed. That's what I have to say.
Yeah, and what's interesting about that too is I think that when it comes to at least what we've seen, I say over the last 2 to 3 years, right? I mean, obviously there was a stretch of, I don't know, however long, decades, where there was nearly no pushback against the conscious community. Mm-hmm. And I think that these ideas, they could kind of circulate a bit, like, those Christians are stupid. If you ask them anything outside the Bible, they don't know anything. I mean, like those ideas, the brainwashed, that was floating around like forever. But the crazy part about it is that I mean, really going back a couple of years when I, thinking about Chris Broussard sitting in that diner with Sinetta, and then, he's holding it down for the faith. And then that, turns into the debate with Vince Bantu and Brother Jabari. Obviously, Vince Bantu came away with a W and, defended the faith, exceptionally well. And then you have, since then, I mean, there's been several appearances of, many of us, on Sinetta TV, and I'm not like dissing or anything. I'm just saying that we've had engagements with that community, more so than we have in the past. And from where I sit, Christians show up and we hold our own. Like like this is not a situation where we're coming in like, don't know what to say. We're bringing sources. We're bringing context. When people take scriptures out of context, we're really, I mean, whether we're talking about the Bible or things outside of the Bible, we're defending the biblical worldview as a whole very well. And I think that anybody who's objective would have to be like, well, dag, like we've been told this whole time that these Christians are stupid and they can't, and don't know anything. I mean, but that's not playing out. It's not playing out that way when we go on their platforms.
Yeah.
Or when we meet them in public, but yeah.
I think the lie that Christians only read the Bible is that, I mean, it's clear that it's false.
Right.
False. Yeah.
I mean, yeah, it's funny, right? Because brainwashing, all that means is you've developed a particular conviction about whatever it is you believe in. And if that's the case, everybody's brain is washed. So that's the problem isn't brainwashing, it's what is washing your brain. That's a discussion we need to have.
That's good
because his brain is washed too.
Mm-hmm.
He has convictions too of what he believes. Why is it that your convictions is valid but mine is not? So.
Yeah, the thing at the end, I don't know if you guys, I mean, Adam heard it. I mean, we heard it. I'm just saying to the audience is what I mean. Don't know if you caught it, audience. He says, because when the stuff breaks down, it's going to break down.
Yeah.
This is very part and parcel to this man's worldview. Some kind of strange, almost like Bane at Gotham type of breakdown of society that's going to happen. And the interesting thing is he has other numerous moving pieces in his eschatology, for lack of a better phrase, that you pick up when you go through his stuff. One that seems to relate to it is that the United States government has a deadline, and I think from what I've been able to discern, he's got this directly from Hassan Campbell, from what I've been able to, a deadline, because Hassan Campbell uses that word, to eliminate the black population in America, similar to the Nazi Holocaust. And he feels that's one element of people not being aware. This is what I picked up. It's not like these manifesto style videos are not 100% coherent. I think we've seen that when we read their letters or we see them. So we're trying to understand. It's not like someone's asking and they're giving cogent answers. You're trying to say, okay, I'm putting this together. What is he saying here, right? So we're trying to be faithful to what he's saying. And it seems like he's saying that's an element of it. And that relates directly to what he did. So I don't want to say too much because I know we're going there, but I just want people to pick up this element of some kind of paranoia coming, hyper dystopian decay that has some kind of racial war element built in. I think we just got a hint of that.
No, exactly. I'm glad you brought that up because I was going to say something along the same lines. I feel like in this video, that was probably, and this comes maybe midway and maybe a little bit later in the original video. The whole video was about 34 minutes long. But in this, you do kind of get a sense of that kind of, like you said, dystopian, things are going to break apart. Y'all don't know what's really coming kind of a vibe. And then when you put that in the context of, obviously what he's done and then his other views about it, I mean, I think this is the kind of where you get a glimpse of that, as far as this video is concerned, But again, I think that's why I think it's important to note that when it comes to beliefs, things that you hold to be true, something doesn't have to be a motivator for a behavior in order to be a factor in why somebody does something. You know what I'm saying? It doesn't have to necessarily be a motivator. So, for example, let's say that I'm just gonna put it out there. Like, say if you take atheism, for example, more strictly like naturalism. I think that if a person really believes that there's no objective meaning or value you know, when it comes no meaning, objective meaning in life, and no objective value for the human person, then that may not necessarily be a motivator for them to commit atrocious acts, but atrocious acts are not necessarily inconsistent with that element of their worldview. You see what I'm saying? So I think that, you know, when it comes to this view here, like not everything that he says points at some sort of smoking gun motivator. But again, our worldview, it's exactly like it sounds. It's like a big puzzle. I mean, it's a puzzle that is comprised of everything that we believe to be true or real in the world, right? And when you put all those pieces together, in this case, you know, this gentleman, you put those pieces together, and you get, you know, the mass shooting at the subway, you know. And so all of this stuff matters. I said that to say that truth really matters. I don't want to say too much because we're going to come back to it, but truth really matters, and not just capital T truths, right? In terms of like the gospel, obviously that's the utmost, you know what I'm saying? But your disposition towards truth in general matters. You know, we'll come back to that. So I'm gonna play this next segment where it kind of gets around to one of his central arguments, and we'll kind of go from there. Anybody else have anything else they want to say, or?
No, I'm good.
Okay, cool.
And when they get to that part where and there's and it's in there, we can't get around that. That Ham, Noah's son, was cursed. He said his future generations be cursed with blackness. Their heads be twisted and kinky. Their lips would swell. Their members would become extra. Their penises would become irregularly elongated. All this other shit. That's describing you. But Pharaoh's going to break that down. I just want you to know that I'm in complete agreement with what he's saying. He's saying the way, looking at it in the way that I never looked at it. I just looked at it from the point that these books are just a tool of conquest from a handful of people. They're just a weapon of conquest to conquer you spiritually, which they have done a great job in doing that. And these are the chains that still bind us, that still need to be broken. The physical chains have been taken off, and we still have mental, psychological, and spiritual chains that still fucking bind us. That we're comfortable with these fucking chains now. We're comfortable with the chains. And we shouldn't be, but we are.
All right, we got one more clip coming after that, but this is where he really starts to kind of introduce the meat of this video, what he's really been trying to get around to. Now, he spilled the beans. I wasn't going to say it till later, but this whole video, the front half, again, the whole video is like 34 minutes. The back half is about 15 minutes of clips from a YouTuber, Times Community YouTuber, and the first part is really him kind of building up to showing this video of this other person. He kind of let it slip out right there. Maybe we'll go there, maybe we won't. It's up to y'all, but let's go to BK, man. You see he's kind of getting around to his central argument. He brings up the curse of Ham, which again is that's par for the course when you're dealing with urban apologetics. We get that all the time. Like, man, like what are your thoughts on that clip, man?
Right. No, exactly. And yeah, and I purposely didn't watch this clip so I could have a real time reaction. So when he said young Pharaoh, I'm like, wait a minute.
Oh, is that the first time you heard that?
Yeah.
Oh wow, okay.
I purposely didn't watch it because I wanted to have a real time response when we was live.
Yeah.
I'm like, wait
nice
a minute.
Prep.
Wait a minute. That's crazy that he's getting all this from young Pharaoh. And for those in the chat, we've addressed young Pharaoh on many occasions. DNew has done a very special job at taking care of Mr. Pharaoh. And
absolutely,
it's crazy that and I mean I got some more to say, but it's very important to find out where people get their information from. And young Pharaoh for a couple years now was a major conscious community influencer. He had over 500,000 subscribers. Like he had the ear of many people, and this individual was one of them. You know what I mean? So it's always important when people come with certain types of rhetoric and talking points, you got to ask yourself, where does it originate from? So you could better handle and understand why they're acting the way they are. And I'll stop there.
Yeah, I will definitely come back to you for the other, but yeah, I mean, who else? As a matter of fact, DNew, you definitely know what's up with young Pharaoh. I mean, you've dealt several body blows to his channel. So yeah, what were you thinking like when he mentioned young Pharaoh? Like, how did that strike you? It was like, oh snap, that's crazy.
So you probably took some of these clips out, but what I noticed, this is actually my first impression when I started listening to the video, because I noticed immediately that he seemed to be making almost like these preconcessions for the source that he's building up to, right?
I got a couple snippets in there, but go ahead though, because go ahead and then they'll hear it. But yeah, you're right, you're absolutely right. No, go ahead though, go ahead.
Yeah, he spends like Adam said, the first 15 minutes is him talking, and then the last portion of the video is his source. But for the first portion, he spends a lot of his words, assuring his audience that his source, that he doesn't always agree with his source, assuring his audience that at times he's diametrically opposed to his own source. He spends a lot of minutes assuring his audience that he recognizes his source is problematic, and that, to give him a chance. And I was like, if you're making this much pre-damage control comments about your own source, you should probably come up with a new source. I'm just saying,
right.
A source B, or maybe a source L for your talking points. So that's the first thing that I noticed. And then here we have Mr. Pharaoh.
But yeah, and to your point, like when I heard it, one thing that occurred to me was, because you're right, through the first, again, like the back half of the video is like about 15 minutes of just young Pharaoh, and the front part, he's like kind of building up to it. He's making all these concessions and so forth. But what it told me though is that this is not somebody who was just like passing through the conscious community. Like, he seems to be really aware of who the players are, and enough to know about the community to where he knows like what people feel about young Pharaoh as well. Now, for many people who don't know, over like maybe the last year, a couple years, young Pharaoh has found himself in some legal trouble due to some interaction with some female. I don't have the specifics on it, but a lot of people are upset with him about that. Also, when it comes to some of his views about like astral projection or aliens and things like that, a lot of people in the conscious community don't rock with him. And he's taken on the name. Well, I can't say taken on, but some people call him Young Pseudo. So when you think about like the OGs in the conscious community, many of them refer to him as Young Pseudo. And so it seems like Frank James is aware of that. So like when I was kind of putting the title together for this video, talking about the connection between this guy and the conscious community, I don't think that word connection was reached, because he's obviously aware of what's going on in the community. You know what I'm saying? So that really jumped out at me right there.
And it's funny too, because the young Pharaoh of today disagrees with that young Pharaoh, because he no longer holds to the Black woman is God. Yeah, he doesn't subscribe to that anymore. Now he's the sun, S-U-N. He's Aten, and women are planets now. So we're no longer God. I don't know if it's an upgrade or a downgrade, but no longer God, and now planets. So here we are. Yeah.
Wow.
All right. Now, one thing you're going to see happen here, and you heard Mr. James allude to it, which is about curses being given supposedly, and the implication you see coming is like it's part of the biblical storyline, curses upon African peoples. But there's a few things about that. When you're going to watch the video, you're going to hear young Pharaoh quoting the Talmud. The Talmud is not the Torah or the Tanakh. So Torah, first 5 books of Moses; Tanakh, the Old Testament; Talmud, rabbinical commentary at a later date by rabbis, which disagrees, because you got to look at the Talmud for what it is, which is like, imagine social media, except it spans centuries over time amongst various rabbis, and then the threads are saved. That's what the Talmud is. So one rabbi says, da-da-da-da. The guy says, actually, likes the comment, disagrees with the comment. That's what's happening. That reminds me of this. And they go off on a tangent.
That's a good analogy right there, bro. For real.
I stole that from my late great friend, Jeff Cran. I'll see you in heaven one day, brother. And so he can't yell at me until I get to heaven for taking his analogy. But no, so I think that's an important way to understand. So what I feel like happens in part of this discussion with between, in a way, James and his interaction with young Pharaoh, is they just dump whatever in the Talmud as if that's what the Bible's saying, but it's not. That's not what it's saying. And there are problematic things in the Talmud, very problematic things, including some crazy stuff about Jesus. So, he's burning in feces and semen. The Talmud says that. So there's some crazy stuff in the Talmud, including stuff that is unequivocally racist. And so the Talmud is not an authoritative source. We will turn to it to find out sometimes what certain Jews thought on a matter. So it has an important historical, theological element, but not because we take it as definitive or canonical. So I just want to bring that out. Don't let them play the switcheroo, because I feel like that happens a little bit.
Man, that's good, Vocab. And you raise a really good point, because I do think that often people in the conscious community mishandle sources in the sense that they will treat something as if Christians take it to be authoritative.
Yep. Right.
And you're right. In this case, it's dealing with the Babylonian Talmud, but sometimes it could be something for the Apocrypha, for example, some deuterocanonical or whatever. They're like, oh yeah, well it says over here in your scripture. It's like, well, dude, I don't even hold to that. You know what I mean? But for them, just because it's written down and in some way associated with some Hebraic tradition or whatever, whether it be the Apocrypha, whether it be the whatever, you know what I'm saying? They just tack it on to Christianity, and it kind of gets lumped in. So as an apologetics element, we do need to kind of check that sometimes, you know what I mean? And that right there can diffuse a whole argument, you know. You look like you about to say something, Dina?
Yeah, I was going to say, and sometimes too, they need for that non-canonical source to be included because it helps with their narrative. It's the only thing that supports their narrative. The Bible doesn't support their narrative. And so, the conscious community, by and large, let me say it this way, some, not all, does this all the time. They include things that Orthodox Christians don't even hold to, so that they can further their own narrative, just masterfully strawmanning, I guess you can say.
No, facts, definitely. All right, so now we're about to get into the meat of what this guy's been building up to, you know. And so, I don't know if we're going to watch the whole. We'll watch at least enough of young Pharaoh so we can get where he's coming from. We'll kind of talk about it and go from there. So take a deep breath. I see you're already taking a deep breath, so we'll go from there.
It's important that we, he really takes a hacksaw. He's taking a hacksaw, kind of sawing on them spiritual chains that still bind a lot of us. That we're not going to get rid of it too late. These white people, they're not going to change. They're not going to change the fact they believe Jesus is white. I don't blame them. The Bible clearly says it. If you read it, and he's going to break it down, it clearly says that's what it is. There's no question about it. Oh, but his feet were burnt like. So what is that video? I want you to clip. This is a clip. It's a 15-minute series of clips that I took from the video, the main video. I'm going to leave the link to the whole video in the description box. But I just wanted you to listen to some of what he had to say. And I don't want you just to dismiss him out of hand. That's not fair, because he does bring information. People can say what they want to. And I don't know if this is done deliberately or, his thing with Dr. Umar. Dr. Umar has some very, very excellent, lectures that he's done that made a whole lot of big sense. And he brought forth some very powerful information. But then at the same time, Dr. Umar's tainted, because of the situation with the school and the fact that, he fucked himself up with this thing with the money and all of that. So it's hard to listen to him, and but we are fucked up as a people. So we got to take the good with the bad. Nobody tell you to send him any money. Don't send him any money. Just don't send him no money. But take what you can. Take some of that shit. It's very useful information. The same thing with this guy, who happens to be young Pharaoh. Yes, young Pharaoh. And again, like I said, I don't rock with a lot of what he says. A lot of shit that he says, I'm diametrically opposed to. But here's somewhere we can agree. And I agree with what he's saying 100%. And his presentation is on point. Biblical racism, did God create us all equal? ? Young Pharaoh. That's the name of the video. In case I can't post the link. That's the name of it. And so without any further ado, here's young Pharaoh. And I'll talk to you guys later.
Okay, today we want to talk about biblical racism. Did God create us all equal? See, because I want to prove to everybody that the biblical figures in the Bible are not black, okay? Except for when we talking about those that were cursed by God, those that were, you know, sent off into slavery. And so luckily for everybody, I have actually read these books. I've read them, okay? I know what they say. I've read them. So we're going to go through all monotheistic religions, okay? Monotheistic religions are the belief in one God, okay? And we want to know, is that God biased? Is he racist? Did he create us all equal? What does God, who is God's chosen people? And if God has a chosen people, who is God's unchosen people? That is the question. That's what we're getting into today. So we're going to go through it all. We're going to go through Judaism, Catholicism, Christianity, and Islam. Okay? And in between, we're going to hit the Hebrews and all of that. And we're going to break down, is your subscription to God the reason that you are in the position that you in? So, okay, I got to go through every book. The white Jews say that they were chosen by God through Moses. When God talked to Moses through that burning bush and the Passover, and he led them out of Egypt and all of that crap. So I'm not going through every single Bible verse, but we can confirm that they say that Moses is the first man on earth that God talked to. So I guess God never talked to none of them black people that was here before Moses. He never talked to none of them black people that he killed during the flood. So he just put black niggas here, never said nothing to niggas. And then one day this white man was working and God said, you know what? Out of all of the people I ever created, this white man is going to be the first nigga I ever talked to. So he turned into a burning bush and decided to talk to this white man. Okay. So this is where white people say, excuse me, Jewish white people claim their divinity from. Okay. This is how they claim divinity, because they say they the first motherfuckers on earth that God ever decided to talk to, and he freed them from other Egyptians. Now, mind you, even though we know the Egyptians wasn't white, according to the Bible and according to white history, the Egyptians were white. So you have to listen to this story, not from your own common sense perspective, but from their perspective, because they teach that the Egyptians were white and they teach that the biblical figures were white. So I don't want nobody watching this and saying, well, the Egyptians couldn't have been white. We're not dealing with reality. We're dealing with the story. So I can tell you, and so I can show you what the story says about you. So according to the people that wrote this book, the Egyptians were white. Okay. And according to the people that also wrote this book, Moses was white. See? So God chose to speak to a white man to free him from other white men. See? Niggas, you ain't even included yet in the story. Niggas is not even included yet. I'm gonna tell you when niggas coming. See? I'm gonna tell you when they inserted niggas in here. See? Now I'm gonna just read this one quote, okay, so that y'all see that God told the Jews, okay, to ordain a feast, so that way they could always remember him freeing them from Egypt. Now, Exodus chapter 13, verses 8 through 10, it says what? And you shall tell your son in that day, saying, this is done because of what the Lord did for me when I came up from Egypt. It shall be as a sign to you on your hand and as a memorial between your eyes, that the Lord's law may be in your mouth. For with a strong hand, the Lord has brought you out of Egypt. You shall therefore keep this ordinance in its season from year to year. Now, this is God, okay, telling white Jews that he they chosen people. Okay. Now, remember.
Real quick, before we comment on the young Pharaoh stuff, because I know everyone's going to jump into it. Notice in Frank James' preface or his prelude to the young Pharaoh video he plays, and Adam and Don, I think you alluded to this. Notice how aware and cognizant and conscious he is of the in and outs of the conscious community. He knows who's in trouble for what. He knows what's going on. Like, he is clearly a constant consumer of the misinformation that comes out from these YouTube channels and these interviews. He knows what's up. That's why he's qualifying it for anybody else. Because he could just play the video, like he may assume, but he's like, well, if they know what I know, then so he's clearly in the ins and he knows the soap opera element of it as well, is what I'm saying. So right. This is why I've labeled him a conscious community. You can say a fringe conscious community hyper conspiracy theorist. You know.
Yeah, it
So,
was
you know.
funny.
very much so.
I actually laughed out loud because when Mr. James was talking about his source, he said, and then he talks about, you know, extraterrestrials, but you can go around that. And it was just so funny. You know, yeah, your source talks about aliens. Your source has been abducted by aliens since he was 5 years old. That's your source.
I find it
This is
interesting that he has the ability to nuance and to qualify and add caveats for
Interesting.
Pharaoh, but he can't do that for Scripture at all.
Wow, good point. Yeah, yeah.
There's
true.
nothing he can glean from the Bible, but this dude, yeah, you chew the meat, spit out the bones. You know, I'm like, wow, you can't be like that with the Scriptures. Like, why is that?
And man,
That's a
white
good point.
supremacy has done a number on young Pharaoh's brain. White people wrote the Bible. All the ancient Jews were white. The Pharaoh, the Egyptian who enslaved them, they're telling you they were white. I mean, my goodness. And, you know, all of a sudden God's like, waiting for the first white man. There's a white man. Let me talk to him. I don't want to talk to
Moses, right?
The first white man was Moses. I'm like, I want to know who these people are that confirmed this, because we need to confirm something to them. Like, who?
Right.
Oh, here I am, everybody. You know, and then never mind. And then he turns himself into a bush.
Right.
He turns up to.
But
Well, actually, earlier.
I was just even wondering, like, I mean, does he think? I guess Adam. I'm thinking even Adam, but I guess he. You know, you could. I mean, Adam. His name means like earth, dirt. He's the dirt man. Comes out of the dirt. You know, and he's the father of everybody. So it's like you got a white guy doing that. Anyways, go ahead.
What about the patriarchs? Like, I mean, these are key figures that are pre-Moses. What are we talking? You're not a Bible scholar,
right?
You're not.
Enoch never had a conversation, I guess, right?
Right.
Oh, good point. Yeah, true. Yeah, Enoch beat him too. I guess he had to make Enoch white too. But I think it's interesting because I don't know if young Pharaoh's going to say it. But earlier in the video, one of the parts I did clip out was from Frank James. He was talking about how, I guess one of his arguments for the biblical characters being white is that Noah, the ark landed at Mount Ararat, which is in the Caucasus Mountains, according to him, or whatever. So, I guess because white people come from the Caucasus Mountains, that's where Noah landed. That was his argument, that everybody, that they're trying to, say that everybody in the Bible was white, and it was just like, how crazy. I mean, that's crazy for real. The logic there is terrible. You know what I'm saying? Like, I mean, I guess like they weren't some other color before they got to Ararat. I mean, they just became white or something, like just all of a sudden. I mean, it's wild, man. It's just wild. You really see a slew of just bad ideas kind of woven together. This guy's thing, and it wasn't me that patched young Pharaoh in here. This is in the original video.
Yeah,
Frank James is talking, and then he hands it off, or he splices in young Pharaoh's video and plays some clips. So that was him. Anything else before I play a little bit more, or?
No, bring on young Pharaoh.
Yeah, let's keep it
All
going.
right, here we go. Yeah, we'll see. We'll let it ride. Oh yeah, I put it in the private. Well, I'll just say it. If he says something that you want to stop and talk about, then just let me know. Just hop in. But we'll let it ride. I want to at least get to the part where he talks about the curse of Ham, and I may skip ahead to do that. We'll see.
When Moses went up on the motherfucking mountain and got the 10 commandments from God. So this is more interaction with God and the white Jews. Niggas is not in the story yet. See, we're not talking about reality. Don't be DMing me talking about the Egyptians. We know the Egyptians were, but we talking about what they said. See? So God has not even said one word to niggas yet. God has not even said one word to niggas yet. Now let's keep it moving. Now we want to talk about the Pope. See, because we want to talk about Catholicism, because Christianity comes from Catholicism. So after God got done talking to Moses, okay, we get into Jesus Christ, and he sacrificed Jesus and all of that, for the sins of all y'all, and whoop-de-whoop, all you Christians and all of that, all of the Jesus subscribers, right? Now, mind you, God gave the Jewish Caucasians power over you. Now let's see if God gave other Caucasians power over you. See, because they say the Pope has the power to speak for God through Peter. Now, when you read the book of Isaiah, chapter 22, verse 22, King James Bible, it says what? And the key of the house of David will I lay upon his shoulder, and he shall open up, none shall shut, and he shall shut, and none shall open. Now, this is a picture of Peter. See? Now, if you notice, Peter doing that same Freemasonic sign that Jesus and Lucifer be doing.
Right,
but ignore that
hold
for now.
on.
The main thing I want you to...
Boom, jump in. What we got?
Young Pharaoh's scholarship is unparalleled. He unearthed an actual photo of an apostle. That's amazing, ladies and gentlemen. Let's give it up for YP. Right.
That's amazing, bro.
This guy is hilarious. Continue.
Hilarious.
Cass is really rocking with this, though, bro. I mean, no, and this is not, I'm not trying to be disparaging, and I'm really making a point here. So now, mind you, Frank James said he agrees with everything the young Pharaoh says in this presentation. He said it's on point.
Yeah.
Right. He said 100%. I agree with it. Earlier in that video, actually, I think I clipped this part out, but Frank James also said that he believes that this presentation is flawless. He used the word flawless.
Yeah.
Okay. Look at the screen. We got young Pharaoh here with a photo. He said this is a picture of Peter. Come on, y'all.
This is in connection with Roman Catholicism.
Right.
So look at the title of his PowerPoint. How did God give the Pope authority over earth? And so assuming the Roman Catholic assumption that the first Pope is Peter, and then assuming he's doing this same sign that Jesus does, like, it's unbelievable. Like, when it's convenient for young Pharaoh, he gladly takes on the presuppositions of his opponents. You know, but this is just be for Roman Catholics, and he's not even getting it all right, really. But I'm just saying, it's pretty wild, man. I don't even know what to say, but my goodness, believe God gave Saint Peter the key authority, which was passed down to all the popes after. Show next slide, and think about it. This is in connection.
Next slide, yeah.
This is go ahead. This is flawless, though. That's all I got to say.
Flawless. It's crazy, man. It's wild.
Realizes Peter is white. Okay, now when you look up Peter, it say what? Peter the apostle, original name Simon or Simon, right? I mean, excuse me, Simon or Simon. It says what? Is a disciple of Jesus Christ, recognized in early Christian church as the leader of the 12 disciples, and by the Roman Catholic Church as the first of its unbroken succession of popes. Now, when you look at every single pope, okay, when you look at every single pope from Peter to the current pope that we have today, this is a list of every pope there has ever been recorded. And if you notice, the first goddamn pope on the list is Peter. See, so this is the biblical verse that the Catholic Church uses to give themselves an excuse for why they can tell you what to do. The Pope claims that God told some other pope, all these other popes ago, okay, God told him that he was the one to keep the teachings in the church of God and Jesus until Jesus returned. So before I even get into this, God has already chosen the white Jews over everybody else, and he has chosen the white Caucasian Catholics over everybody else. And we ain't even into the damn story yet. And niggas have still not come up in a divine manner. So in Judaism, God has not chose you. He chose the Khazar Jews. In Catholicism, God has not chose you. He has chose white Peter. Now let's keep it moving. See, because we want to go back. Let
me just say, this man said that God has chosen the Khazar Jews, man.
Because we all know they existed during the early Bronze Age, right?
Goodness gracious, bro.
You know, those Jews from Turkey that converted, oh my goodness, and white Peter. It's funny, he shows a list of popes according to the Catholic Church and says, this is the biblical verse they use. But it's a list of popes.
It's a list of popes.
I guess you could try to say he's talking about the keys, but that's not, it's so scattertonic. It's just so helter-skelter, man. And I think this is like someone who was an influencer.
Yes, I mean, goodness. An influencer. He's got an influence. You know what I mean? He's clearly influenced Frank James, man.
When you think about it, it's just really so unfortunate. Like, and Adam, you say this all the time, that, you know, where there's such a lack of critical thinking in certain circles, let's just say it that way, where, you know, people literally, like Mr. James, on and off, consider young Pharaoh to be reliable. And he's clearly like not, I don't know if you can listen, and I'm not attacking him. I feel like I'm just making an observation. I don't know if you can listen to young Pharaoh for 5 to 7 minutes and not at least hear 2 moments of ridiculousness. But people hold to him. People believe him. People will come for you when you correct him. And for the life of me, I don't know why. And I think we just need to pray.
Well, I mean, and I'm going to say a little bit about this later on, but I think that at the end of the day, you're right. Prayer, we can't, as apologists, we cannot neglect prayer.
Yeah.
Okay. If you find yourself in a situation where you feel like you're about to, maybe you're going to come in contact with somebody you might end up witnessing to and doing apologetics, if you have the opportunity, take a moment to pray. If you have a conversation with somebody and you feel like, whether you feel like it went well or didn't go well, pray for that person. Then we can't neglect prayer as apologists, because the reality is, when it comes to deception, whether you are the person advancing deception, like a young Pharaoh, or whether you're on the receiving end of the deception, at the end of the day, we're talking about something that's demonic. Like, we're talking about a spiritual issue that's going on. There's a heart issue at play. There's an issue of demonically inspired deception at play, and we can't neglect that. We have to be mindful of that.
Yeah, absolutely.
I want to jump back to the Israelites, see, because they depict Jacob as white. Now they say this is the Bible verse, Genesis chapter 32, verse 28, where God names Jacob Israel. See, and it says, and he said, "Thy name shall be called no more Jacob, but Israel. For as a prince hast thou power with God and with men, and has prevailed." So now God, has given the Israelites life and given them power with him. And according to their ideology, Jacob is white. Okay. Now niggas keep saying that these biblical figures are black. Now, I don't know if y'all just jumped in here, but I showed y'all the genealogy. These are white Arabs. All of these biblical figures that I'm naming so far are descendants of the Shem bloodline. See, let me go back up for niggas talking about Jacob is black. Okay? Do you see this motherfucking bloodline at the top? The one that got the most descent. Now you see right here, Noah, Shem, and then when you get to Terah, you come down to Abraham, and all of these are descendants of Abraham. Okay? We got Jesus down here. We got Jacob right here. Abraham, Sarah, Isaac, Jacob. Okay, Levi, and this is where Moses come from. And so with that being said, all of these descendants are Middle Eastern or white. Even when I was debating with the Moor, they was talking about the Moabites, and I showed y'all how the Moabites are Arabs. Yes, because when the fucking boat landed, it landed over there by the Caucasus Mountains. So nobody that I have named yet can be black unless y'all telling me black people were in the Caucasus Mountains. That's the only way any of these biblical figures can be black, if black people come from the Caucasus Mountains, and we don't. So none of these figures in this book are you. Stop trying to.
That's the part that I was talking about. I mentioned it earlier because I think Frank James mentioned it, but that's his argument, y'all. Because because Noah's Ark landed in Mount Ararat, the Caucasus Mountains. Therefore, according to young Pharaoh, all the biblical characters are white. Mind you, these would only be people after Noah, so he hasn't accounted for those before Noah, or even Noah himself. But somehow, all of these people after are white.
So the patriarchs were all black until the flood, and the water washed the pigmentation away, and they became white. Like what? I don't understand. Like,
I guess it washed the black away too. I mean,
they didn't get enough sun in the ark, and so
oh man, there we go.
This is wild. How does he have the color code on the genealogies in the Bible? I want to know where he got that color code that says, and this one was, like he's telling us what it is. I'm like, where did Young Table get the color coded Table of Nations from? What's happening?
Did you just call him Young Table?
Young Table.
Call him Young Table.
Right, but it's bizarre. And then, it's interesting, the whole thing with Caucasian, because the Caucasus Mountains are like in what would be part of it, as my understanding is Turkey and Armenia. So not the Armenians, the theological position that sad people hold to, but are not Armenian, but Armenian, right? Armenians are still around. My buddy Arthur that runs Apologetics Center, we've hung out with them with the Hebrew Israelites at ETS and stuff. You guys have seen him, bald dude with the glasses. He's Armenian, and like he knows that mountain range. And if the funny thing is, those people don't look like white. They don't necessarily look, I guess, what we would call black, but you know, they're like a Middle Eastern type of people. But that's not even very relevant because where the boat landed is
well, it kind of is actually though, because to your point, actually, the group of people that we refer to as white today, not all of them descend from the Caucasus Mountains. Supposedly, if you're gonna take that train of reasoning, the Caucasians technically is actually a smaller group of so-called white people than the broader group that we refer to as white people.
But some aren't even white. Like the Armenians are Caucasian.
I
if
agree.
you've seen them, they don't look.
I would encourage people to Google it. Like Google, because I want to say it was in like the late 1800s. I could be wrong about that, but it was like I'll go with the 1800s. You have these photos where you have people who are actually from the Caucasus Mountains, kind of like paraded around in these different what's the word I'm looking for? Like these carnivals and stuff like that. You know what I mean? And they were supposed to be like the most beautiful people on the earth. And if you look at those photos, like a lot of them have kinky hair, and they're kind of like Afro type, you know, that kind of stuff. Like it's not like, you know, like a blonde hair, blue eye type of a deal. No. You know what I'm saying? So to your point, again, you know, you're right. The actual Caucasians, as in the subgroup amongst people that we refer to as white, they really are more like kind of an Arab type of a deal. And again, they at one point they were supposedly the most beautiful, and then I think throughout for a pretty long time, I want to say from like the 1500s to the 1800s, you have these recorded various raids where people from Arab countries would come in and capture Caucasian women and take them back to you know their areas and, you know, keep them as sex slaves essentially. So, but anyway, that's like way too far afield. My bad. So you actually got a couple minutes left. So actually, I think we'll just play it out. You know what I'm saying? Because we only have like a few minutes left on it, and he's actually coming up on like his main argument anyway. So if y'all cool with it, I'm just gonna play out. Is that y'all good with that? Yeah. Can y'all stomach like another 5 minutes of young Pharaoh? All right, here we go.
Hold on to these figures. Now let's get to what the book say about black people. Right now, this is from Dr. Ben, I believe. Dr. Ben book on Hebrew Israelites Exposed. So he the one who brought this research to me. Okay, I mean on Judaism and the Hebrew Doctrine Exposed. But I'm gonna read this book. Now this is in the Babylonian Talmud. Now this is the first time religion gets to black people. Okay. Now what do it say? This is chapter. I mean this is in the book of Genesis, right? Now watch this. This is what it say about black people. This is called the curse of Ham. You see this, right? Examining even closer than we have done so far, we discover that it is the land of the cursed descendants of Ham, the Canaanites, otherwise so-called Negroes that Jehovah allegedly selected as his chosen people, the Hebrews, right? Then it says to make them the promised land. It say this is the same land that in the 6th century CE, European rabbis and Talmudists wrote about in the following distorted manner in their own ethnic and racist version of Genesis. Now, listen to what it say about black people. It say, now I cannot beget the 4th son whose children I would have ordered to serve you and your brothers.
Stop.
Therefore,
rewind just a couple seconds.
So good, he wants to hear it again.
Yeah.
Now I cannot beget the 4th son whose children I would have ordered to serve you and your brothers. Therefore, it must be Canaan, your firstborn, whom they enslave. BC. This is what it say about black people. This is called the curse of Ham. You see this, right? Examining even closer than we have done so far, we discover that it is the land of the cursed descendants of Ham, the Canaanites, otherwise so-called Negroes that Jehovah allegedly selected as his chosen people, the Hebrews, right? Then it says to make them the promised land. It say this is the same land that in the 6th century CE, European rabbis and Talmudists wrote about in the following distorted manner in their own ethnic and racist.
Stop. So he said, remember, he's saying that these people are saying that everybody's white. Dr. Ben says that they distorted that. So I guess they're not all white then.
True. Yeah, he wrote about him he said in a distorted manner.
Right. So he just cut himself.
Right.
He should have gave some of those Frank James caveats for a source.
You're right.
And he also says
That's a great point. I didn't catch that, BK. I'm sorry, DNew.
That's okay. That's okay. He also says that this is the first instance of the mention of Black people, but he also said that the first person that God spoke to was Moses. But who was Moses' wife?
True.
Yeah, I mean, this is not the first mention or first sight of Blackness in the Bible at all.
No, and yeah, to your point, because actually when Moses disobeyed God and didn't have his son circumcised, it was Zipporah who jumped in the way, you know what I'm saying, and pretty much saved Moses' life. You know what I mean? So clearly, you know what I'm saying, you have some interaction between a Black woman at that, you know what I'm saying, and God, right? So he's just wrong.
Moses' wife was a Black woman with a knife.
You can't. You see, you know they're gonna clip that, right?
They're gonna clip
That's
that,
okay. Hey, you actually, real quick, the reason why Sanetto was calling is Sakari apparently has made a fake avatar of me and is going on live chats, putting racist comments underneath this avatar, and they're saying it's me. And apparently, some people were falling for it. So he asked me to see if it was true. So, you know, they'll clip that, but they're so low now. They're literally making fake profiles and putting fake comments. The comment was this avatar saying, "The colored boy speaking is right." That's what it says. And it's supposedly, that's what I said, you know, since I talk that way, you know, since I'm 102
you sound
years
just
old,
like Archie Bunker.
I'm 102 years old from Birmingham. That's how I talk.
Right. So they're just bearing false witness at this point. That's what this is.
Yeah, whatever.
No, they're lying. Lying's okay. It's bearing false witness that's problematic.
Right.
Well, they're following the Talmud, which there are Talmudic passages that say it's okay to lie to non-Jews. So
yeah.
Oh, well, good point.
I just also want to say that young Pharaoh doesn't know the Bible. I just want to say that for the record.
At all. Like whatsoever. We'll see more of it right here. We're almost at the end. You know, so people can breathe easy. We're almost at the end, but if we kind of want to make it through here.
Version of Genesis. Now, listen to what it say about Black people. It say, "Now I cannot beget the fourth son, whose children I would have ordered to serve you and your brothers. Therefore, it must be Canaan, your firstborn, whom they enslave." God has already ordained you to be enslaved, but I'm not done. There's more. It says, "And since you have disabled me, doing ugly things in the blackness of night, Canaan's children shall be born ugly and black." Did you hear what God just said to you, nigga? Did you hear what God just said? Let me read it again for your stupid ass. It say, "And since you have disabled me, doing ugly things in the blackness of night, Canaan's children shall be born ugly and black." Okay, so God said that black is ugly. You hear niggas talking about God don't like ugly? They talking about you. And then you got niggas running around and matter of fact, let me not get off topic. Let me stay on topic. Let me keep reading. Let me keep reading the verse. It says, "Moreover, because you twisted your head around to see my nakedness, your grandchildren's hair shall twist into kinks."
Wait.
Yeah, it's bad. This is some bad work. That's right. This is your first time seeing it. I forgot, man. So this is striking you.
But the song cuts him again. He talks about how Canaan and his sons will be in slavery, right? So what's the curse of Ham then? The source is not saying that. It's saying it's Canaan. So did he read the source? I'm like, I don't understand.
Yeah, Genesis 9, "Curse be Canaan, a slave of slaves."
But even in his passage that he's reading, it's talking about the enslavement of Canaan and his children, not Ham.
Right. Well, that's definitely a misnomer. I mean, and to your point, and I'm sure we don't have to spend too much time on it, but I'm sure we'll come back to it. But you're right. It's cursed to be Canaan.
Right.
And in Genesis chapter 10, verse 6, we have the sons of Ham, Cush, Egypt, Put, and Canaan. So Ham had 4 sons anyway. You know what I'm saying? So it's not even, it can't even be the case that like unless you're going to say that all black people come out of Canaan, which maybe you would go that, which is silly. But I mean, Ham had 4 4 kids, bro. 4 sons rather. You know what I'm saying? So anyway, we'll keep moving. To reiterate what DNew said, your boy doesn't know the Bible. If your Pharaoh does not know the Bible, he's not even close to a theologian yet. We're almost done. It's got like a couple minutes.
See this shit? You hear what the Bible talking about our natural hair? Yo, let me finish reading this before I go in. It say your grandchildren's hair shall be twisted into kinks and their eyes red again because their lips jested with misfortune. There shall swell. So it's saying we cursed to be black. God cursed us to make our hair kinky, and he gonna swell our lips. So it's saying that, and it say there shall swell. Then it says, and because you neglected my nakedness, they shall go naked. Now let me keep reading. It say, and their male members shall be shamefully elongated. That means you should shamefully have a big penis. Now let me end this last bar. It say, men of this race are called Negroes. Let me end it for you in case y'all think I'm capping. Men of this race are called Negroes. Their forefather Canaan command them to love theft and fornication, to be banded together in hatred of their masters, and never to tell the truth. See? Now these are the descendants. These are Ham. See? Ham is what? Africa. See? Now let me come out this real quick before I continue. Let me come out this real quick.
You're muted, bro.
You muted, Adam.
I said, my bad. So he just said a second ago. He said these are their descendants. Ham is Africa. He just said that. But if Ham is Africa, and it's like cursed be Canaan, but Ham has 3 other sons. If Ham is Africa, then you got at least 75% of the game here. You know what I'm saying? Is not cursed, bro. Like what are we doing?
And the source, again, the source keeps beating them up. The source says it was written 6th century CE.
Yes.
That's not primary evidence
At all.
6th century common era? 6th century? Really? Anyway, I digress. Continue.
Well, can I say something real quick? It's interesting because so even though the Talmud, like I said, the Talmud has some messed up stuff in it. Remember, now I'm not saying this is something Jesus specifically touched on, but the traditions of men dumped on top of the Word of God was a primary area of contention between Jesus Christ and his religious contemporaries, like the Pharisees and the Sadducees, right? that's like the boxing match.
Right.
But within that, it's interesting. You find some stuff that it goes against even that. So like, here's a 2nd century rabbi named Ishmael, and he describes the Jewish skin color. And here's how he describes it, quote, like the boxwood tree, neither black nor white, but in between, end quote. And so this rabbi's perception, this is 2nd century, is the Jewish skin color is basically light brown, like the colors of the boxwood tree. And some would say that this agrees with the descriptions that you find in some of the papyri from what's called the Ptolemaic period in Egypt. And some of those describe the complexion of various Jews in that area as, quote, honey colored. You can find some more about what I'm talking about in an article from 2003 called Collective Degradation, Slavery and the Construction of Race by David Goldenberg, who also wrote a really good book on this topic it's actually called The Curse of Ham. Not a Christian scholar, but a very helpful work nonetheless. And my point is, if we're going to use secondary sources in this way, we can't act like it's teaching something it's not. These extra biblical Jewish sources, because there's also stuff like that in there, which is not going to bat for some kind of white perception, right? Last one, there's a last one you can find that's well, I'll skip that, but just know that I think that's important to understand and get at that. And again, you can download that article for free, and you can look at the sources. Collective Degradation by David Goldenberg.
Yo, Phil Fox said, I need to go to the Young Table School of Eisegesis so I can make the Bible say what I want to. I'm dead.
Young
That's
table.
great.
Young table.
Oh, man. All right. All right, we finish. Anybody else want to say something before we finish it out, or let it
Now,
play?
go ahead.
All right.
Flawless.
Did you hear God just say that he cursed niggas? Huh? So God says that being black is a curse. Having kinky hair is a curse. Having big nose and big lips is a curse. Having a big penis is a curse. God just said that he cursed the descendants of Canaan to look like us because we did whatchamacallit, we're in his disfavor. So God chose the white Jew, okay? God chose the motherfucking Arab, because I'm finna get to him next. God chose the white Catholics. But when it came to niggas, he cursed niggas. See? And then y'all be talking about, well, the Bible don't promote racism. The Bible don't promote racism. How it don't? Why you think the Ku Klux Klan is a Christian organization? The Ku Klux Klan justified racism with the Bible. If you ask any KKK member, how are they a Christian organization? Okay? And they racist, the first thing that they gonna say is, God said, love thy neighbor, and blacks are not our neighbors. And then they gonna go into the curse of Ham on how God cursed black people and said that they should be enslaved. And so the Ku Klux Klan uses the Bible as justification for slavery. You don't believe me? Go ask any active member of the Ku Klux Klan, what is the biblical justification of racism? And tell me if I'm lying. Tell me if I'm lying. They ain't light no cross on fire for no reason. Okay? Now let me keep it moving.
Yeah, and that was right. Fortunately, that was the end of the video that Frank James played. Now again, this wasn't me clipping this together. This is what Frank James pasted on the end of his video and said that this presentation was flawless. He said that this is he agreed with this presentation 100%, that it was on point and all these things. I say that to say, guys, listen, apologetics is not just about like a kind of a call and response between, or some sort of scrap between us and other people. You know what I'm saying? They make a claim and then we make a counterclaim. Like that is an aspect of it. Sometimes engaging in apologetics is coming alongside people and helping them to think well. You know what I'm saying? It's really helping them. And I don't mean that in a condescending way. I really don't. You know what I'm saying? What I'm saying is there are a lot of people out here who are not adept at critical thinking. They can't identify solid sources. They're just not skillful at that. Matter of fact, respect to Brandon Washington. I wasn't even going to go here, but respect to Brandon Washington. This is Urban Apologetics, Restoring Black Dignity with the Gospel. Edited by Eric Mason. I got a chapter in here. Brandon Washington's chapter was written for that purpose, to help people to think well, to think logically. Okay, because what's happening is people are taking bad sources and they're piecing together falsehoods with bad logic. So now you just got bad on top of bad. So again, sometimes in order to, it's not as simple as, kind of a question and answer sometimes with apologetics. Sometimes you got to open up the hood, if you will. Kind of use a car example. Sometimes you have to open up the hood and see how people are thinking through things, and hopefully in conversation come alongside them to identify pitfalls in their own thinking, right? So that way they can reach better conclusions. So, for example, I think BK or Vocab, one of you guys pointed out that if you're coming with a 6th century CE source and you're using that as that's your source for what the Bible says, as opposed to going actually to the Bible, right? And that's where you're building your case. You've got a problem with how you're using your sources. The 6th century is far too late. You know what I'm saying, to base your case on, obviously, But yeah, that's what I was saying. What y'all think, man? What y'all think?
Well, Genesis 9, going back, so the whole curse of Ham notion, it's not true. But let me just read it, just if that's all right, because he focuses in on that a lot. The sons of Noah, Genesis 9:18, who came out of the ark were Shem, Ham, and Japheth. Ham was the father of Canaan. These were the 3 sons of Noah, and from them came the people who were scattered over the whole earth. Noah, a man of the soil, proceeded to plant a vineyard. When he drank some of its wine, he became drunk and lay uncovered inside his tent. Ham, the father of Canaan, notice how it's emphasizing the offspring here, right? Saw his father naked and told his 2 brothers outside. But Shem and Japheth took a garment and laid it across their shoulders. When they walked in backward and covered their father's naked body, their faces were turned the other way so they would not see their father naked. When Noah awoke from his wine and found out what his youngest son had done to him, he said, "Cursed be Canaan." So this isn't the curse of Ham, that's a misnomer. The lowest of slaves will he be to his brothers. He also said, "Praise be to the Lord, the God of Shem. May Canaan be the slave of Shem. May God extend Japheth's territory. May Japheth live in the tents of Shem. And may Canaan be the slave of Japheth." After the flood, Noah lived. Okay, let me just make a quick comment on that, which is there are multiple interpretations on elements of this throughout the history of biblical interpretation. There's a number of alternatives to try to explain the nature of the offense committed by Ham. Because it seems like there's a pretty severe result as regard of it. Now, it's on Canaan, though. It's not on Ham. So one is voyeurism, like check out dad naked, in a weird way. Another is paternal incest, so homosexual incest in this case it would be. But there's no support for that in the text. You hear people talk about that. The text doesn't say that. And a lot of these things people talk about when they go to Genesis 9, they talk about the wrong curse and they say stuff it doesn't say, including that kind of stuff. There's even a version of interpretation that has to do with potential castration, which has support in rabbinic literature. Again, but that's way later. And this is essentially from, rabbinic literature and something regarding ancient mythology. But that's not actually in there, right? It's just not in there. So we can see these alternatives, but that's not what's there. So I want to draw the point to one last thing, relationship to this, that whatever we're to take away from this, ultimately, we have to understand that's not a permanent thing, because in Jesus's day, we specifically see him helping a Canaanite woman. She's described as a woman from Canaan. You know what I mean? So like whatever it is, it's not the way people make it seem, because we can see in the New Testament that it is an interesting passage. There's some thorny issues involved, but we don't want to make out of something it is. And there's more on this about the history of interpretation. It's more in later uses where it got picked up. It got picked up later on by other groups to justify some of what was happening, such as the Afrikaners in South Africa. It wasn't like this has always been the interpretation. Some of the interpretations we hear these days on the negative racist side, you know what I mean? Some of that is later developments, and that's a whole interesting thing as well. And again, the main book on this I'd recommend is The Curse of Ham by Goldenberg. I mean, this is a nice thick book on Princeton Press that really goes through a lot of it, but just bringing that out.
Right. What I would like to say is Frank James, that's his name, right? Frank James?
Yeah,
Frank James is the logical conclusion to the fiery rhetoric of conscious community influencers. He is the logical conclusion. He walked it down to its final conclusion. Because, and let me put this caveat before I continue, I am not saying that anybody that subscribes to any ancient African spirituality is training themselves to kill white people. That is not what we're saying. What I am saying is that people like Pharaoh, Seti, Polite, and others with violent rhetoric and spewing a violent insurrection and revenge fantasies to trigger people's emotions and open people's pocketbooks also convinces people and give them convictions to follow through on what they're saying. Now, I got a couple slides. I don't have 500, Adam. I just want to run through them real quick, just so people know what I'm talking about.
This is from his future book, everyone.
There we go.
So if I could just share my screen real quick here.
Yeah, as soon as it come up. Okay.
All right. This is a video from Polite called The Bible or the Bullet. In this video, he goes to a shooting range and he shoots up the Bible with an automatic weapon. It's theater, right? We know it's theater. But for many of us, they'd be like, wow, this is something that we should do. Because you have to remember, for many people who watch these conscious community influencers, the beef with Christianity isn't, well, there's some, philosophical faults to it, or it doesn't purport world reality. That's not the issue. They have believed that Christianity is a tool by white supremacists to condemn and oppress black and brown folk.
Yeah.
That's why they have to bang on Christianity. That's why Jesus cannot be real. Because if he's real, then you got to look at his teachings. And if you look at his teachings, you'll see that his teachings are the polar opposite of white supremacy. But that doesn't feed the hatred and the anger that they need. They would rather have, well, Jesus is a myth, and he's a composite sketch of these African deities who's been revamped, remixed, and weaponized to oppress me. That I like. I feel good about that, right? Let me continue real quick. Right? Here's Sarah Sunseti. The blueprint for global African supremacy. Black power cartel. Let's get free. And it only costs $20. For the blueprint of African supremacy. Armageddon 2019, when Negroes strike back with the AK. $15. Right?
Are those books that he wrote, or what is that?
Those are classes, I think.
Okay, gotcha.
Those are classes, lectures he's selling. I Empress Sekhmet, who is now a Hebrew Israelite, by the way. She's now part of ISBK.
Really? Okay.
But yeah. So, but here she went viral when she did this video talking about that it's open season on white people. Pulled out the gangs like, we need to shoot and kill white people. Okay.
Wow.
Now the cops took her very serious because they actually arrested her for this video.
Yeah, rightfully so. I mean, yeah, you can't be.
And man, I don't know if I can get into all this, but there's this rhetoric of superiority for revenge, and I'll just go into this. It goes during the 1980s, we witnessed, for instance, the loquacious bravado of Leonard Jeffries, Francis Cress Welsing, and other so-called melanists promoting the idea of biological determinism as an explanation for racism. Jeffries argued, based on the pseudoscientific doctrine of melanin theory, that black people were inherently superior to white people because they possess greater quantities of melanin. Conversely, the lack of melanin demonstrates the alleged inhumanity and inferiority of white people. All right, and this was taught in City College in New York.
Wow. This
is taught in the university. All right.
Mm-hmm.
So people are, you go to school and you're taught this. You go to your YouTube and you hear this rhetoric and it fires people up. People develop convictions on what they're being taught, not knowing that these guys won't bust a grape in the fruit fight. None of these dudes. It's all theater for them.
Mm.
But not for Frank. Not for Frank. He decided, you know what? I believe in what's being said here, and I need to be a part of this. I'm not going to be a hypocrite. I'm gonna do my part. So many of these influencers are culpable for the Frank Thomases of the world because of their rhetoric.
Frank James.
Frank James. Thank you.
No, I totally
Frank
agree,
Thomas
man.
Like hurt Chicago White Sox.
So
but no, I mean, no, I think you're absolutely right, BK, because at the end of the day, I mean, you're going to be held accountable for every idle word. You know what I'm saying? Like, you're responsible for what you say. You know what I'm saying? And I think that the term influencers, I think it's taken too lightly. I mean, it really is how it sounds. I'm saying, like, you have influence over other people. Mm-hmm. And I would say the same thing to rappers or whatever. Like, when your music is the soundtrack to every drive-by in your city, like, you're responsible for that. Like, I would hate to stand before God and be held accountable for that. You know what I mean? Likewise, with these, what BK is saying, it's not just the information that's passed from the YouTubers to, the Frank Jameses of the world. It's the emotional baggage, you know what I'm saying, of hatred and jealousy and all these things. I can't remember what live stream I was on the other day, but it might have been when we was together. I can't remember. I'm using the same analogy that I did the other day. Spoiler alert for anybody who hasn't seen WandaVision yet, but in that show, you have Wanda, you know, who in the previous movies Vision died or whatever, and so Wanda is so stricken with grief that she takes over a town and basically mentally enslaves a whole town. And you get through the whole series and you find that the reason why she did that is because she couldn't cope with the reality of having, you know, lost Vision, you know, the character Vision. And so she created a utopia for herself, I'm saying, in this town of mentally enslaved people. But nevertheless, the people themselves, they were bearing the pain of her grief, I'm saying, you know, while they were mentally enslaved by Wanda, okay, in the show. Likewise, when it comes to these social media influencers, I think it's like WandaVision. I think what you have is like a person like young Pharaoh, who's wrathful, who's hasty, who's reckless, who is a number of other things, I'm saying, and all the other, and not just him, but other platforms where hatred and vengeance is communicated. You know, these are sinful dispositions that are within these people, you know what I'm saying? And through social media, they are enslaving the minds of the Frank Jameses of the world, who are mentally enslaved, if you will, and brought into this person's world of vengeance, hatred, so on and so forth, and deception, right? It really is like WandaVision, you know? And so I think that just kind of using that analogy, I mean, all of us will be held accountable for what we say and do, but there's a real danger, you know what I'm saying, when you have people who have a platform communicating harmful ideas. It's really not a game. And so when it comes to urban apologetics, again, you know, it's not just about, okay, whether or not Jesus died on the cross or whether or not, you know, Jesus was based on a horse. I mean, all those things are important, but sometimes I think we find ourselves with really important opportunities to help people detach themselves from a far more insidious root of deception.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Go.
That's good. That's good.
Oh, you gonna say something, Vocab?
I was just saying that was good.
Oh, okay. I think that's a good segue for me to say this. So just straight piggybacking off of what you just said, Adam, this is why books like this book and books like this are so important. Hopefully everyone knows about this book, but this is Vocab's second book that just dropped last week. And, you know, chapter 2, there's 3 parts of the book. Part 2 of the book, Adam and MJ and Vocab as well, they go into specifically the conscious community. And MJ just very skillfully lays out how the conscious community has arrived to where it's at today. Adam in his portion, just being very practical, I've marked it off somewhere. Adam in his portion, very practically, he lets people know for each of these groups, because for those of you who don't know, there's different groups or ideologies, worldviews housed within the conscious community. It's not just one you know, thought tank. But Adam lays out just very practically and so good points of discussion when you're going to engage people in the conscious community. So what should you know when you engage, say, Afrocentric atheists? You should know a little bit about the historical Jesus. You know, you should know a little bit about, you know, the proofs for you should know about Jesus as he, you know, I don't know what I'm saying. Sorry, that thought escaped me. But what I'm saying is that Adam just lays out points of discussion for each of these groups. That's so useful. And we talked about this before. You know, what we're saying, the moral of the story of what we're saying tonight is that truth matters, and that, you know, ideas, ideologies, worldviews, they're not stagnant, right? It's not like they're these agents of immobility, right? Ideas take you places. They're very, very locomotive. And so, yeah. And so, you know, when we have books like this, you know, books like this book right here directly speaks to what Mr. James was talking about. This is Pastor Jerome Gay's book, The Whitewashing of Christianity. We also have, I don't have it in hard copy form, but we have We have Pastor Eric Mason's book, Urban Apologetics, Restoring Black Dignity with the Gospel. These are books that specifically will help us engage the conscious community. And I say that I'm going to say it again. I've been saying it every time I talk about this book, Vocab's book, where if you have a passion for evangelism, and after doing shows like this, I hope that it encourages us to see the need for evangelism, right? If you have a passion for evangelism, or if you don't have a passion, but you want it, this book will help you get that passion. Because as we can see, there's people out here who need to hear the gospel. There's people out here who need to be told the truth. There's people out here who need to be covered with truth. And so if you guys don't have these books, any of these books, I encourage you to get it. These books will encourage you. These books will help you. None of these books will harm you. Okay. And so I encourage everyone to get these books.
The only thing you'll be shooting after reading these books is shooting down false ideas.
Boom.
Or maybe I should say, hold on. Wait.
Yeah, I don't think we heard echo, man.
Yeah,
You didn't hear the echo? Okay.
Nah.
Okay. Whatever.
We still love you, though.
Yeah, we still love you. With or without the echo, man. You're still my brother in Christ, you know.
Okay.
But no, I mean, to DNew's point, man. And then let me say this, because you mentioned Mason. I saw he's been putting up a lot of videos. Shout out to him, TikTok videos and short reels and stuff like that. It's been really dope. And I think cats is coming at him like, oh, why are you talking about this, and why is all this black stuff, blah 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 blah. It's like, and I'm like, man, like, okay, either biblically seasoned people are going to be addressing these issues, or we can just let folks go to young Pharaoh. Like, which one do you want? And either we're going to talk about this stuff from a biblical perspective, or we're just going to send all our folks over to, Dr. Umar Johnson. Like, which one do you really want? You know what I mean? We got to stop this mess, man. Yeah, go ahead. I'm sorry.
I'm sorry I interrupted you. This really does matter in people's real lives. Like, the thoughts and the ideas in Mr. James' head didn't just affect Mr. James. He affected everyone in Brooklyn that morning, right? I had someone reach out to me on social media, and it just reminded me, like, this stuff is real. Like, this affects people's lives. Someone reached out to me on social media, and her mom is her mom is New Age, but she holds to, here we go, parthenogenesis. And and it's a point of contention between her and her mother, and then it also, and as it does, it merges into how people think about Christianity and what people think about Christ. And this is a real issue for her. It's her mother. This is a real relationship that is affected because of these ideas. And so it's not like, as Adam said, it's not like, this is like a call and response type of thing. This is not like it's like a one-upmanship game. I know more than you. This is not what it's about. This affects people's lives, literally. And it will affect eventually their eternity as well. And so, again, I don't know, I'm going to say it again. This matters. Truth, big T, small t, all truth, it really does matter.
Absolutely.
Yeah. I mean, you would hope that people involved in the conscious community would realize, like, the seriousness of this, like, to stop believing so many false things, stop teaching and promoting so many things that are untrue, because people are taking this in. You'll say some crazy theory on a live stream as some kind of conscious community influencer, but they take that serious, and then they take the next thing serious, and then they take the other guy serious over here, and it helps foster serious paranoia. Because that is a key element to what Frank was. If you go through his videos, we only covered one, but I went through some, Nate went through some, I had a friend go through some, I read articles on some, Plus, I took a ton of screenshots. Like one video, he was super upset that the recent Supreme Court justice, has a white husband. How could she? The video was titled. All kinds of stuff like that. And a key element was this great anxiety about the American government having a plan, which seemed to include a budget and a deadline to begin to commit genocide in the black population in America. And what he indicated he was doing by previous videos you should try to put together is to essentially wake the people up, wake them up. This will wake people up about what's going on and what you should do and that kind of thing. And so he was trying to wake people up to these coming realities and things like that. And his ideas are all from the conscious community, and there's a lot of conspiracy theories there. There's a lot of untrue things. Specifically, we haven't got to talk about it much, but Hassan Campbell, there are some rumors floating around the internet. I'm not confirming this. I'm telling you, I've seen rumors. I'm telling you, this is a rumor that even Frank may have been looking for Hassan Campbell in regards to the events around this. And then it's like unclear why, like people are like, is he coming to get him? Like maybe I'm not sure if that's what it was. The rumor base might be he's like trying to build with him because Hassan Campbell talks about a budget and a deadline for our people. There's a limit. They're coming to get us. And it was wild because I watched Hassan Campbell's reaction to this, and he was talking about it, and he was just saying it's all fake and all this stuff. Don't be distracted. Americans are so stupid. And then halfway through the live stream, someone says, "Hey, did you see this dude's channel?" And he's like, got a lot of stuff about you on there. And Hassan Campbell's like, get out of here. He didn't seem to believe the guy. Now, I haven't finished watching that video. It's super long. But in that video, like he was told that and didn't believe it, which is fascinating because the whole time he's saying it's fake. Well, this stuff isn't fake. And there's people truly injured by God's grace. No one's dead. And it appears part of the reason is, number one, he had some medical conditions, but also apparently the smoke blocked what he was able to see, because it was clear his intention was to kill people. But fortunately, no one died. As far as it's still a mass shooting, no one died because the
gun jammed too.
Oh, okay. Praise God. Too. Okay, I didn't know that part. Yeah. So, but I'd hate to say it doesn't. This isn't going to be the last one. And so, listen, everybody. Don't assume, back in the day, I would hear people always assume, is it Muslim? That was kind of an assumption when as a white nationalist. Now people, is it Hebrews Light? We got to find out and see where these people are at when these things happen, right? But look, when I talked to you guys first about this, the last thing I'm going to say, and I think everyone agrees, it's like, don't tell us urban apologetics are not needed. My goodness.
Right, man. Jeez, man. No, well said, right? And actually, I didn't even know all that. I mean, about the Hassan Campbell, connection. I mean, obviously, Vocab, we're going to talk, man, because some of you've really been digging in, quite a bit.
A little bit. He's got a lot of polite videos on his channel. He's a subscriber to House of Consciousness. He's subscribed to a channel called Afro Preppers. So if you know about the prep community, get a bunch of guns and food. And this is sort of an Afrocentric version of the prep community, right? He subscribed to that. No Israelite channels I saw that he was subscribed to at all. He wasn't commenting on any of their videos. He was commenting on Umar Johnson videos. And so it's like that kind of stuff that he's all filled with and about, and that he relays and whatnot. And you could see it. Again, this stuff is all down now, but I have screenshots and a number of the videos saved. So there's a whole world here. And, to some of the conscious community guys, they're just, some of the big ones, I mean, it's clear they're grabbing a bag, but there's real people watching this and taking this stuff in serious, and it's affecting their view of the world, right? And you want there to be no more Frank Jameses, but I think there might be some more Frank Jameses.
He also had a video on Nature Boy as well.
Oh, yep.
Yeah.
You posted that like right before we went on, so I don't even know what's going on.
No, that was a different thing. He was in the news recently.
Okay.
They were talking to some of the people in his thing. It's pretty wild.
Yeah.
Well, it takes me to that scripture, man. Keep your heart with all diligence, for out of it flows the issues of life.
Yeah.
Guard your heart with all diligence. Like that would be. I'm thinking about doing a whole teaching on it. Maybe next week. I might do it next week. But Guarding your heart is of the utmost importance, man. Because like you said, vocab, I can attest personally. I mean, I know if not everybody, just about everybody in the urban apologetics community, and I can affirm that I don't know anybody who's in here doing it for the money. You know what I'm saying? And and if they are, they're not doing it well, because we ain't getting bread like that. You know what I'm saying? That's just not a reality of the apologetics world. You know what I'm saying? I do know of, and I have on good authority, I'll put it that way, that there are some people in the conscious community, in Hebrew Israelite community, that are in it for that bag. That's the reality of it. They it's like WWE. And they get on screen and act a certain way, say this, say that, because at the end of the day, it's really not about waking the people up. It's really not about, freedom or anything like that. It's about getting that bag. Don't be a mental slave to somebody who's out here just trying to get that bag, fam. Don't do it.
Can I tell you something, Adam?
Yeah.
We're talking about conscious community mainly, but since you brought it up, within the Hebrew Israelites, right?
Mm-hmm.
I went on GoFundMe, just looking around, saw some links here and there. I found a GoFundMe created by Sakari. It's from about 5 years ago when they first created it, but they've left it up, so it's something you can constantly give into. This is not including the Cash App ties you're required to pay to the priest, because he's a Levite, don't you know? This does not count all the stuff they sell. This doesn't count Hakaz and Alazar's individual patrons, which both those guys have like 10 times the amount of Patreons I have. You just put in perspective, right? How much do you think in 5 years or so this GoFundMe has raised?
Oh, geez. Wow.
Any guesses? This Sakari GoFundMe? What
more than your average church? I'm telling you that much. I'm gonna go. I'm gonna be extreme and go 6 figures.
You're getting close. $80,000.
Wow.
$80,000.
You said over 5 years?
Over 5 years, $80,000.
Just sitting there.
Unless you go to a larger church, think of if you're in a smaller or mid-sized church, like a lot of us. Imagine do you think your church, this is separate from everything else? We could have a separate side fundraiser where it's collected $80K in the past.
Wow.
So
just
my point is,
wow.
There's some money to be made, but it's on the other side.
And deception, right?
Yeah, it's on the other side.
Well, I'm gonna make one more statement here, and then we'll get ready to close it out. We've been at it for about 2 hours, man. I appreciate y'all, hanging on me, especially you, BK, man. I know you're, in recovery mode, but and I think I'm gonna do a whole teaching on this. But Proverbs 23:23: buy the truth and do not sell it. Wisdom, instruction, and insight as well. I think that's so crucial, man. Like, we ought to be lovers of truth. God created us and endowed us with certain rational faculties, the ability to, I'll just say, our minds. He's wired our minds to identify truth. Like, we ought to be geared toward truth, right? And when you're not being a good steward over your mind and you're entertaining deception, then you make yourself vulnerable. Not to say you're going to become a Frank James, but nevertheless, you open up your life to brokenness and more brokenness. That's what happens when you're not a lover of truth. In this verse right here, Proverbs 23, 23 is kind of like, using verbiage that you would associate with like some sort of a merchant, to illustrate how valuable the truth is. As DNew's been saying all night, the truth matters. We ought to value it. I'm saying, obtain it and don't let it go. That's what this verse is saying, And when you encounter people like a Frank James, or a young Pharaoh, any of these folks who are just, eating a steady diet of deception, we ought to have the kind of compassion that compels us to confront that deception with the truth, right? So that they don't find themselves dining on brokenness, essentially. So I just wanted to throw that out there. Final thoughts. I'm gonna start with DNew. We're gonna kind of roll around here from person to person on the panel. DNew, I'm gonna go with you first. Your final thoughts.
Well, I don't know if I really I want to relay this as much as I can. And you just repeated it as well, Adam, that truth matters. It defines not only, and this is the thing, truth doesn't only affect you, it affects your kids, it affects your kids' kids, it affects your neighbors. It can even affect your dog and your cat and your lizard, okay? Truth matters. And so we have to have a conviction, whatever that looks like in your area of the world. We have to have this conviction, and I believe it's a God-given conviction to both defend the truth and to provide an offense for truth. And that's what apologetics is about. Specifically, we're talking about urban apologetics tonight because we're talking about the conscious community. But truth matters it should matter for all of us as Christians. And reasoning shouldn't be pitted against faith. Reasoning is not something that is, as Frank, what's his name, Mr. James, Mr. Reason shouldn't be diametrically opposed to faith. God calls us to be creatures of reason because he created, you know what I'm saying? And so I just encourage us all to be critical thinkers, critical good thinkers, and to share the gospel and to evangelize with good critical minds. So that's it.
Amen.
Amen to that. Yeah, BK, go for it, man. That's well said.
Right, we again, right, the importance of urban apologetics, but also pray for your urban apologists, okay? Because
please,
because you have to understand their view of Christianity again is they equate it with white supremacy. So when we defend the faith, they interpret that as us being agents of oppression, right? We are now enemies. And the fact that we are, people of color is like we are betraying our race. And it doesn't help that we hang out with the Jesuit overlord Vocab Malone, right? So people, so we get attacked, videos are made, and who knows what else might occur because of what we stand for. So please pray that we stay steadfast and courageous and be smart in how we go about defending the gospel. So that's my final.
That's right, my young apprentice.
And that's because look, I'm gonna call it out, man. Spiritual warfare is real. You know what I'm saying? And you have people out here. I'm gonna just say straight up, man. Like some of the worldviews that we deal with, these are people who are like aware that they're engaging in real witchcraft. Like it's not a game. Like it's not. I know this for a fact. Like I know this is like what people are engaged in. You know what I'm saying? Like, they've actually communicated it to me and others. So like it's really not a game. Definitely be praying for us out here.
If I could read something about something specifically that was brought up, the so-called curse of Ham. I know I'm going back to that. It's because it's one of the biblical passages that it's going to come up again. This is from Black Man's Religion, right? Christianity be Afrocentric canon. Good News Theory and Craig Keener. Listen to this a little bit. I want to read a little bit from page 70. Although especially exploited by white racists, the tradition transferring the curse of Canaan's subjugation to all Hamite, hence on their reading, African peoples, predates its abuse by Europeans. Jewish tradition from the 2nd century and later, developed further by 9th century Islam, associated the tradition of Ham's blackness with the thesis that Ham was cursed with blackness. Many Muslims used this curse to justify enslaving Africans, even when they were fellow Muslims. Although Genesis speaks of Canaan's rather than Ham's enslavement, Arabs transferred the curse of slavery to Ham's descendants, whom they took to be black Africans. And all this is footnoted in the book. Yet this tradition about the cursing of Ham bears little resemblance to what the biblical text says. It is remarkable that some Afrocentric writers, apparently unwittingly accepting the teachings of white racists, would assume that the Bible cursed the descendants of Ham, an assumption they believe militates against taking the Bible literally, when in fact the text of Genesis said no such thing. The curse of Ham was a post-biblical myth borrowed from Islam and especially developed by white supremacists in Europe, then by their successors in the United States and among the Boers, Afrikaners in South Africa, In the Bible, Ham himself and his other sons, including clearly African ones like Africa/Cush and Egypt, Mizraim, were never cursed. Christian Afrocentric biblical writers are correct that the curse on Canaan was fulfilled in the time of Joshua and his successors and ceased to be applicable later as descendants of the Canaanites assimilated into other peoples. Genesis was written to encourage Israel in possessing the land, but even the curse of Canaan was clearly not permanent. In later times, Jesus acted on behalf of a Canaanite. Matthew 15, 21 through 28. Last little quote, this one's much smaller, from The Forging of Races. This is in a book written in 1804 by a Reformed Presbyterian pastor in New York City. He was a opponent of slavery, Reverend Alexander McLeod. Listen to what he said in his book. It's called Negro Slavery Unjustifiable. That's the title. Here's what he said regarding this. In order to justify Negro slavery from this prophecy, it will be necessary to prove 4 things. 1, that all the posterity of Canaan were to suffer slavery. 2, that African Negroes are really descendant of Canaan. 3, that each of the descendants of Shem and Japheth has a moral right to reduce any of them to servitude. 4, that every slaveholder is really descended from Shem or Japheth. Want of proof in any of these particulars will invalidate the whole objection, end quote. So I'll just leave with that in regards to that. I wanted to sink teeth into one element, and there's some good resources to do that. But y'all pray for Frank James. He's probably going to be locked up for the rest of his life. And I pray that he encounters the true gospel while he's locked up.
Amen, man. Well done, man. There's no better way to end it than that. Thanks for the references, and definitely, y'all. Certainly, we want to pray for Frank James. It's not a game. We definitely want to see him come to Christ. For sure. So, hey, with that being said, love y'all, man. We had a great chat. We had a lot of people riding with us this evening, and y'all know what it is. I'm definitely gonna drop this as a podcast, so people can expect more podcasts coming out soon. I got to get on my book though, man. Vocab is he's beasting on me, man. He doesn't want to see me go another day without writing this book. So I got to make sure I stay on the ground with that. I appreciate the encouragement. So, But with that being the case, man, I love y'all. Y'all know what it is. Love God, love people. Take care of the things that God blesses you with.